In this section, we are going to look at slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is actually one of the most common ways you will see the equation of a line written in. And that's because it gives us a lot of information about a line, most specifically the slope and the y-intercept of a line. We already talked about what the slope of a line is. Y-intercept might be new to some. The y-intercept is actually the starting point or the initial value of the line that you're looking at. And this is because the number b, or letter, but the number b is the y value when x is 0. So it's the starting point of the data that's given to you. And so when we look at the standard form, the x and y are referring to your data points, your table information, that kind of thing. The m and the b are the numbers that we're looking at, and the m represents our slope, the b represents the y-intercept. And in this case, that b is just a number, but I do want to point out that the y-intercept is a point on a graph, and so y-intercepts are actually written as points. So let's look at our first example. We're going to pull out the slope and y-intercept of each of these equations. So both of these have 8s, and this first 8 is our slope. The second one is our y-intercept, our b value. So our slope, that is not how you spell slope. Our slope is going to be 8, and our y-intercept, the b value is 8, but our y-intercept is 0, 8. Because when I'm looking at a graph of this line, the point at which it's going to intersect the y-axis will be right here at 0, 8. It will intersect the y-axis, which is why the x value is 0, and it'll be here at y equals 8. Here are the two numbers for the next one. The slope is m, and the y-intercept is b. I do want to make note that your slope is beside your x variable. So our slope is 1/4, and our y-intercept is 0, 7. And I mention that our slope is by the x value because of this next example here. Notice that our first number is not our slope because it is not beside the x value. The x does not actually have a number in front of it, so I added the number 1 because 1 times x is still x. I didn't change the value, but it gives me a number in front to call my slope. So in this case, my slope is going to be -1 because of that minus in front. And then my y-intercept, I'm going to actually just copy this. Is going to be 0, 3. Having slope-intercept form is helpful, as I mentioned before, because it helps us graph the equations. So I'm going to zoom in, and we're going to graph a couple of equations. And we won't need a table. We've been graphing equations using a table. We don't need a table if we have our equation written in y-intercept form. I'm going to kind of eyeball this. Hopefully it's kind of in the middle a little bit. If we can identify our slope and our b value or our y-intercept, then we are able to figure out how to graph our equation. Notice that my b value is 0 because there's nothing being added or subtracted in our equation that's not beside the variable, which means it must be 0. So to graph, we said that the y-intercept is our starting point. In our data set, it's when x equals 0. So when x equals 0, y equals this number. So I'm going to go to where x equals 0, and I'm going to put a point at y for 0, which in this case is just 0. From there, I can use my slope to find another point. Now, my slope needs to be rise over run, and that's quick and easy to solve. I can just throw a 1 underneath it, and now I have a rise over run. So from here, I can go up 5 and over 1. And then it's good to have a couple of points, so I could go up 5 more and over 1, but that takes me off my graph. So what if I went the other direction? Because -5 divided by -1 still gives me 5, which is my slope. So -5 divided by -1 is still 5. Either of these can be used to graph my line. So I'm going to go down this time, down 5, and this time to the left 1, because these are negatives. And now I have another point. And another point. And once I have my points, I can take my ruler, draw my line, and that's my graph. Let's look at that again. My slope is -2/3. The negative can go with the 2 or with the 3. And my b value is 4. So my starting point is going to be at b is 4, or where my on my y-axis at 4. So I'm going to start at 0 at the origin, and I'm going to go to y equals 4. So when x equals 4, when x equals 0, y will equal 4, because this is the point 0, 4. And then from there, I can use either of these to create my next points for from my slope. So let's go with this first one. The first one is -2, +3. -2, +3. Or I could do this one from my y-intercept, which was +2, -3. +2, -3. Create my line using my ruler. Oh. And one last one. This time we have a positive slope, which means our slope can be a +3/2 or a -3 over a -2. And there's no b value, and so my b is 0, which means my y-intercept is 0, 0. So my first point is at the origin at 0, 0 because my b is 0. And then I'm going to go up 3 over 2, up 3 over 2, or I can go down 3, left 2. Down 3, left 2. Once you kind of get the hang of graphing from the equation, you can actually do this in reverse. If you're given a graph, you can kind of reverse that and write the equation from a graph. So this is a graph. We're going to identify the slope and the y-intercept from this graph and write the equation. So I need to know what is my m and what is my b. And once I know that information, I can write my equation y equals mx plus b. So let's start with b because that's where my line intersects the y-axis. So that's that intersection point right there, right here. And this point is 0, -3, which means my b is -3. So this is going to be -3. And now I'm going to look for my slope. To get our slope, I need a second point. And remember, we're looking for a point that's kind of like right at an intersection of the grid. So I see two that are good points. I could do here or here. Either one works. I'll do the closer one. So we're going up, looks like 1, 2, 3, and then right 1. So that's 3 over 1, which I can just put as 3. And that is my equation. I've now written the equation from a graph. Let's look at that one more time. We need to identify our slope and our y-intercept, our b value, in order to write our equation y equals mx plus b. I like to start with my b value. And in this case, it looks like it's right here at the origin. So b is 0. Looks like I don't need to have anything added to the back of my y value, or to the back of my equation. And my slope, looks like I could have 2 points to choose from again. That one would be a good one, and this one would be a good one. And this line is going kind of up and to the left, so I know I should have a negative slope. I'm going to use this point here. Looks like I go up 4, and then this is going to the left, so that's negative because it's going over this way towards the negative numbers. And so my slope is -4 over 1, or 4 over -1, which is -4. So my equation is y equals -4x.